So, let's get started. So guys, today we are about to announce, do a quick demo of changes that we have done to ScandiPWA and announce some of our plans. So ScandiPWA team is currently on a roadmap to deliver a new updated version of ScandiPWA, fixing many problems that we have accumulated over the years. Basically, we want to turn the page around. So the product is pretty old. It was written from scratch 3 years ago or 2 years ago in some months. So we want to make it compatible with new changes in the industry. Well, the TypeScript became more prominent. The Redux is becoming less and less used in real projects. So we want to update the source code of ScandiPWA to it for it to stay relevant and to provide additional support to our developers, like typings and easier interfaces. So in order to do it, we have created a roadmap that you likely have already seen, or you can see following some links in the description, hopefully. Currently we are building and we are working on a TypeScript integration. Basically, we are migrating all the code to TypeScript to provide typings. And we are doing it in a non-destructive way. We are not rewriting this ScandiPWA for now, like Redux stays and containers stay and some other stuff stays. Yet we try to provide the interfaces now to the code we have already written. This means better compatibility and easier migration in the future. We will keep we will do the breaking changes last, yet we will still release them once they're complete. So once the TypeScript migration will be complete, we will release this. So currently we have started working on it, and we have used tools that helped us to achieve this, and more on that we will find from Alexander Skondratievs. So could you please let me know and let us know, what tools did we use and what approaches did we took to migrate the code? So Alexander, please.
Yep. Hi. So actually we have been using only a few of the tools. The first one is very important to getting the scheme from the backend. Basically, GraphQL scheme that we wanted to ensure that we are using the right types for our codes that we're getting from the backend. So we're getting the scheme and transforming to the TypeScript, to getting those types correctly formatted. Same as we are using tsmigrate tool that helps us to make a bit faster migration of some primitive typing, for example, prop types for the types that we can, instead of writing them all by our hand, we can just use this tool to make it faster. But of course, it's not goes perfectly. We need to go through it manually to fix all the issues. But anyway, it's faster than nothing.
Cool.
We started basically from the migrating of prop types with help of tsmigration. Just run all the prop types to TypeScript and went through them manually. So those prop types are actually what we have been writing for those few years of developing the ScandiPWA, and they are not exactly what we have in the reality from the backend. They can be a bit changed of some products, for example, can be formatted in process of showing them to storefront and so on. So the main point here is to follow the backend types.
Okay, cool. So we have started with pulling out the schema from the backend and migrating some parts of the code using tsmigrate, and we are migrating not all the code together, yet we migrated by logic. So we decided to split the code into logical parts. So the schema and queries, the utility functions, the prop types, and generally all the folders that we have originally built in ScandiPWA. Those include query type, components, and store and maybe some more. So we are migrating them one by one, following the logic. So logically, the utility functions had to go first alongside with prop types because they had no dependencies. So prop types and utility functions were migrated first, and then we moved onwards to queries that utilize utilities and prepare the schema. So the schema was already migrated, so now had to ensure that our code utilizes it well. And then we moved onwards to Redux and all of the store revamp, and it had some problems as well. But first, let's talk about utility functions and utility functions. So who is willing to tell more about problems with utility functions? Probably again, Alexander?
Yep, most likely I'm gonna show my screen.
Yeah, that would be good. And while, yeah, oh, you already did
explanation.
it. Cool. So let's then simply go.
Yeah. So basically, as we already have been speaking, that we have been using tool to migrate to get the real types of from the graphical scheme. We have those utils to make some formatting or getting some information from the information that we're getting from the backend. And about information, there is a bit struggling because there is a problem from the scheme in the backend that mostly all of the types are actually writable as can be nullable. They are not strict typed, and it means that when we are using them to ensure that we're getting, for example, out here we have a function. It gets the get index product. It's actually formatting the product into the form that we're using to show on the front end. We know that we should get the product interface from the graphical scheme, but the problem is that product interface has in itself, I feel gonna go a bit out here, and for example, into the simple product, it has those types as nullable.
Yeah, so this means that like the SKU field can be nullable, yeah, and which is not really possible in Magento.
Yep, exactly. So SKU is actually always present, and in the scheme it can be nullable, and it's a problem because in this case we need to actually use those methods as typecasting or basically saying TypeScript that this one property is actually the property that we want to handle. It's not null, and it won't be null. But for TypeScript, that's obviously, it doesn't know from the beginning. We need to same it. So that's why we're using typecasting, and same as in the function by itself, we are going with the checking if all those attributes exist, because those attributes also can be null, and so on. So yep, we are not formatting our code because we are managing to make as Alfred already said, we're managing to make it fast as possible to migrate to TypeScript and without any pain. So, but still those problems appears, and we are making as much as possible to ensure that those utilities are handling the right information and it won't cause any problems in the future when we're going to be handling already the existing, like making some showing on the front
thanks
end.
So basically we have a problem with a schema being a little bit wrong to the real data shared, and to combat it in a way, we are casting the types, and we had to make the code. We actually also fixed some bugs along the way, like in many utilities, some cases were not handled, and TypeScript helps us to improve on these cases. So expect much less type-related errors in the code after this migration. So after we done the utility functions, we switched our focus to queries, and Jans was responsible to query migration. So could you tell us more about problems with the queries and how it was going?
So before we started to migrate the queries, we transferred Opus, our GraphQL client, from TileWork repository to ScandiPWA repository to have ability to develop it along with ScandiPWA, and we found out that it has some issues that are not the Opus is not fully compatible with ScandiPWA, so it had to be refactored a bit. But it also can be used as it was intended. Even if our developers that are using ScandiPWA will not switch to TypeScript, they can start using Opus and then can have uh, help with types because Opus was specially designed for it to have typed queries
Cool.
in JavaScript.
Let me recap a little bit. So we had a Tilework Mosaic repository and organization separate from ScandiPWA, where we kept the logic that was actually responsible for building ScandiPWA, and also we kept the GraphQL client we developed there, as we intended it to be used apart from the product, like by third-party services. And sometimes it's being used like this, but not too much. And this became a pain to us to maintain from our original repository. So we are slowly but surely merging in the Tilework repository with ScandiPWA to ensure that we basically have every dependency of the code managed and easily accessible. Yes, that's super cool. So what's up with queries then?
Okay, I will share my screen. So with queries, we have transferred everything to Opus using Opus types. So now we have to specify query names and types they output, and this gives our opportunity to have typed results. But there are also some issues that since most of the queries have a lot of nullable types, as Alexander already mentioned, we had to find some workaround to
Make them work.
make them work. And sometimes it may look ugly,
Okay.
but for now, since we want to make a quick solution to switch to TypeScript, we had to use it. So in future, this will be improved. But for now, there are some unpopular solution that still works and still gives us opportunity to use TypeScript, to use auto-completion, and to improve the performance of our development.
Super cool. Thank you so much. So this also means that after doing queries and utilities, we switch to working with reducers and actions. And just to let you know, we are planning to remove Redux in the future. So next iteration, somewhere in the middle of the summer, will include removal of Redux and switch to context. This is, however, a pretty lengthy story, and we will also try to do it with least pain possible, by which I mean changing as less interfaces as possible. Meanwhile, migrating current code is also important to make sure that the components and other parts of the application still receive the proper typings and all the application is typed. Therefore, we are doing it. So Alexander's or Jean's, who's willing to tell more about the reducers and actions?
I can start because I have did a lot of work with them.
Cool.
So once again, I will share my screen.
Thank you.
Okay. So for reducers, we tried to search the best approach, and we are not trying to use some combined utility functions for action creators, for reducer creators, and so on. They are too complex, and we actually don't need them because every reducer is separate, and we just need to specify specific types for each action for each reducers and stick to them as they don't overlap. So for all types, we're using enum, and for each reducer, for each action, we have its own specific type. So then we can actually use checks if the type has some specific failure. Only then we have the TypeScript gives us the correct typing for each action inside the reducer, so um, we don't have mistakes when we have multiple types of reducers, and use the wrong data. Uh, Actually, also we have moved, previously we have defined all variables from action uh, outside the switch statement. Now we tend to move them inside each case statement. So we when Redux will call on each dispatch will call each reducer. We will not declare unnecessary variables, and they will exist only on each specific scope that is related to the type.
Perfect, perfect.
Yes.
I think another big question about Redux was the dynamic store. So we imported like from the plugins, store from a plugin sometimes, and injected it into the global store. So how is this currently handled, and do we have any solution?
This question is more is better to answer Alexander.
Okay,
since he worked with this part.
Let's then move to Alexander. So Alexander, could you tell us more about dynamic reducers and how is this handled?
Yeah, so basically the dynamic reducers are actually implemented to help us a bit split our code. Reducers actually when they're required to use them. So just if someone didn't know. So basically, for example, some of the reducers actually can be injected dynamically, and we have a thing that is called in the store. Let me find it. It should be in the details. Yep, out here. Basically, we have a bit modified the Redux store that we're using to input the properties asynchronous reducers and inject reducers. Basically, they are used to inject those reducers on the process. And basically, out here we can see that we have first of all the configure store function. This actually helps us to configure the store. And we are already out there inputting into the store that is usually it is just Redux store. It's not modified as our new one, and it doesn't has those types asynchronous reducers and replace and inject reduce. So we are actually aiming to say to Redux that yeah, those types exist, they are needed, and what they are actually presenting for us. So in this case, we can use them. We can inject into the store as we have been doing previously, and Typescript won't actually say to us that we're doing something wrong. Same as actually we can been getting the store state not only in the components. For example, we have a product util. Out here we need to get the config reducer some state that says as the guest is enabled, for example. And but the get state is actually always turned as an unknown, and this is a problem. So if we're gonna like remove the typecasting, we'll see that config reducer is unknown because the get state is actually turned as nothing, and not nothing but any actually in this case, and it doesn't know exactly that config reducer exists out there. How do us actually work around is that we have this root state. It is a global interface that helps us to determine which actually reducers are in the store right now. And when we have been making the reducers, so here, for example, navigation, yep. We have been like extending the root state and injecting out there the new property. In this case, this navigation reducer. We're saying that it handles those types, what it has in itself, and that's help us to reuse and like use the Redux state somewhere out of the.
Cool. I think that's pretty neat solution and a good solution for such a problem, at least the current case. So next we'll be working on other parts of the application like containers and components. So we'll move more into the front-end code. And I want you guys to understand, I'm referring to developers currently watching this, that we are still allowing you to write in a JavaScript. It will just be more convenient to you because now the types will be correct and available to you there. And it will be your decision whether to write in a TypeScript or to write in a JavaScript as you did previously. Do we have anything else we would like to add to this demo today? If not, I would like to conclude it with that. And thank you guys for watching. That's it. Thank you and bye.